All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Honors and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing this word in truth and sincerity. Or this is the brother Tawab Akha from GMS Los Angeles / Inner Empire. Come back with another video in the spirit. And once again, Tawadi Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, for opening my eyes to this truth. Allow me to wake up another day and putting the spirit on me to do another lesson in hopes that I'll find a hopeful elect. Okay, so in this video, what I want to go into, this is inspired. I was with a beloved brother, the brother Sakar, out here in GMS LA, and I was having a spiritual conversation with that brother, you know, because me and that brother came into the camp around the same time. You know, this was about 15 years ago, you know, and it was beautiful, you know, because, you know, Spirit had to where I was able to link up with this brother, and that brother, he had kind of brought it to my attention, you know, because we both joined the camp, I believe, around June of 2011, you know, and it's just, you know, everything's spiritual, you know, and while I was sitting there chopping up with the brother, you know, the Spirit hopped on me and the brother to do a lesson, you know what I'm saying, and the brother was telling me before we did a lesson, the brother was going through all kind of shit, you know, and you know, he told me by me coming down there to see him, you know, it boosted his spirit, you know, he needed that, you know, so that inspired me to do this lesson right now, because, you know, this is one of the things we cannot forget, you know, is to, you know, be there for our brothers, you know, to the best of our ability, of course, you know, because the scriptures say, you know, every man has to work out his own salvation with fear and trembling, right? You know, but the scriptures also speak about, you know, being a brother, you know, and, you know, being your brother's keeper, you know, that's an aspect in this truth that cannot be overlooked, you know, and it's the, you know, it's very beautiful, you know, being in this knowledge and, you know, growing, and you grow with other individuals as well. You know, you visit other individuals' homes, you become acquainted with brothers, you build a bond with certain brothers, you know, you hope, you know, that bond lasts, you know, you hope the Lord have mercy on all of us, you know, you hope the Lord have mercy on, of course, you know, have mercy on us, our household, and the brothers, apostles, elders, you know, and, you know, every day that we're in this truth, you know, we always have to have something to be thankful for, you know, being thankful first and foremost for this truth, knowing who we are, knowing what's getting ready to happen, what's getting ready to go down, and knowing that, you know, we can potentially be of the elect. You know, that's why we say hopeful, because we hope. That's all we have at the end of the day is hope, you know. But, you know, I'm gonna get into the video, but the point is, what I want to convey in this video is, you know, the brotherhood aspect, you know, having that genuine love for one another, you know. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, the brother Taj, you know, I did a quick hit, you know, pre-workout with that brother. That brother has that series pre-workout, and I had said in one of those pre-workouts that, you know, you don't know how your words can affect brothers, man. You know, not even just words, but presence, you know, actions, deeds, things that you do for brothers. You know, that goes a long way in this truth, man. You know, even though brothers may have differences, but at the end of the day, man, just doing simple things, man. The simple things, the little things, man. Those things go a long way, you know. So I'm gonna get right into it, Salakia. You know, I don't want to be too long-winded. You know, I'm just gonna bring these scriptures out, and I'll pray this hit home for you sincere brothers out there, you know. So I'm gonna get right into it. So the first scripture I'm gonna start with is Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17. It says, "A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." Okay, and all of us, you know, in this truth has or is or has, you know, experienced adversity, you know, and adversity comes in different forms, you know, and it's different levels of adversity that brothers go through. It varies from brother to brother. Okay, and as the scripture just says, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. You know, so that's when you really gonna know who your friend is, you know, in adversity. Okay, because when people tend to do good, when people tend to have everything going on for themselves in life, they tend to have a lot of people around them. They tend to have a lot of friends around them, right? But soon as things get difficult, things get hard, you know, they find themselves going through all sort of obstacles. All of a sudden, you know, the people around them start to shrink. You know, they don't have as many people around them no more because, you know, life, they're going through those obstacles. And, you know, and that's when people realize, you know, that all those people that were around them weren't really their friends. You know, and in this truth, that's what this truth teaches us. The truth really is where we learn true friendship. You know, because in the world, we didn't really have friendship in the world. We just had associates, people that we knew. Okay, people we may have grown up with certain people. You know, maybe gone to their houses, hung out with them, but they weren't really friends. Okay, they were just associates, really. You know, some just people that you talk to. It's no different than these people at the job. You go, you work with these co-workers. You know, you might shoot the shit with them a little bit and then go back to work. That's it. You know, but in this truth, you know, this is a friendship, a bond, a brotherhood. Okay, and it goes beyond just going out there on the highways and byways, you know, and doing lessons together. You know, this is a real thing. Okay, and being a brother, you know, is not just words. Is really by your deeds, your actions towards brothers. Okay, so it's something as simple as when a brother's down and out, and you go visit that man, you check upon that man, you help that man out, you know, just by, you know, it could be monetary, it could be, you know, you pray for the brothers anoint each other, you know, wherever the case may be, you know, you build that brother's spirit up, you uplift him, you exhort him, you comfort him. Okay, that's right. That's being a brother. Okay, those are deeds that the Yahweh Shemi Awashai, is gonna be considering in these latter times, man. Okay, that's a major thing. This is something we all gotta always be mindful of, being in this truth. Because yes, we all got our own shit that we dealing with. We all got our own cross to bear. But at the same time, it's not just all about us. This thing is a body. And the Lord puts us through these things for a reason. Okay. All right. This is Romans chapter 12, verse 9. It says, let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil. Cleave to that which is good. Okay. Now, it's like it. When you look up that word, dissimulation, okay, it means to be sincere. Okay. It means to be sincere. So where it says, let love be without the dissimulation, basically saying don't be pretentious with your love. Don't be, you in the truth. We supposed to know we Israel. You know what I mean? You around brothers, you acting like you posing, you pretending like you a brother, but really, inwardly, you don't really feel that way. That's being a hypocrite. Okay. So we're supposed to be sincere with the love that we have towards one another. It's supposed to be out of sincerity. It ain't supposed to be no pretentious thing. Okay. It says, be kindly affection one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. See that? So we're supposed to be kindly affectionate to one another. Okay. And like I said, with the word dissimulation, you prove that by your deeds towards one another. Okay. When a brother needs help, you come to that brother's aid. You aid that brother in things. Vice versa. That brother comes and aids you when you need help. And it's genuine. It's not because you do things for brothers in that spirit of having him in debt to you, or you being in debt to him. It's supposed to be done out of sincerity. Okay. And like I said, when I went to go see that brother the other day, yesterday, it just felt beautiful, because me and that brother hasn't chopped it up in a while, like that. So by me and that brother linking up, I can tell, in the spirit, that really boosted that brother, and that made me feel good, just to, have that kind of, first and foremost, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that had that kind of effect on the brother, because, like I said, me and that brother, we came in at the same time, man, and that brother's a beautiful brother, man. That brother has a heavy spirit, and and that brother's up in age too, so that brother's seen a lot, that brother's been through a lot of stuff, and him giving me his testimonies, all the trials that he's been through in his life, even being the stuff he's gone through in the faith, that really inspired me as well, man. Let me know, that basically boosted my faith. It boosted my uh morale, because hearing all those things that he been through, and he the fact that he's continuing to keep pushing, and we got our examples too, mainly with the apostles, the elders, right? But with this brother, like I said, me and him came at the same time by me and him having that relationship, that really, like I said, boosted my morale as well, my spirit, All right, I got another one. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 14. It says, "Now we exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly, comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, be patient toward all men." Okay, and that word exhort means to encourage. It says to warn them that are unruly. So when Jake get out of order, when Jake get unruly, that's where correction comes, right? And it also says comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, be patient toward all men. So we're supposed to support one another, brothers that may get weak at times, okay? It says be patient toward all men, okay? Some brothers may be fiery, some brothers may be impatient at times, some brothers may be immature at times. But the scriptures say be patient toward all men, right? And that's the duty of being a brother, okay? Being a brother is not always pretty, Being a brother is going to be times where you are going to be challenged, you're going to be annoyed, things are going to get on your nerves, a brotherhood is not necessarily perfect, right? But the thing is the attitude and the spirit that we have to maintain, in being a brother. Okay, we got to look at the bigger picture. We got to look at things from outside our perspective sometimes, man. Because sometimes our perspectives can get in our way, get in the way. Okay. All right. This is back in 1 Thessalonians 5 and 15. It says, "See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves and to all men." Okay, so we're not supposed to render evil for evil. That tit for tat spirit, right? So these are the things that we got to keep in mind, because the Lord is watching. The Lord got the angels watching. Everything is being recorded. So we want to make sure, we're behaving ourselves according to what the word is telling us to behave, because we're held to a standard here, and we all got to live according to this standard. No one is above Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's program, man. So like I said, this is a very important aspect of this truth. All right. This is Philippians chapter 2, verse 1. It says, if there be therefore any consolation in Hamashiach, if any comfort of love, and if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercies, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than themselves. And then that being in this truth, you learn that. You learn that, to fall back and prefer others. You esteem others better than yourself, man. Because it ain't about, this truth is not about that me spirit. Me. No. It ain't about that. In fact, We got to deny ourselves, man. This truth teaches us to deny ourselves, man. We got to take on that same mindset of our Lord Yahweh Shai. Okay? And like I said, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory. We ain't supposed to be doing things out of strife or seeking some vainglory, man. We supposed to do that, like I said, lowliness of mind. We're supposed to do it out of sincerity, out of pureness. All right? It says, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. You see that? So there's times where you gotta think about others than thinking about yourself. All right? It says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, who being in form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men, and being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. You see that? Because even Yahweh Shai, he had all this power, and he was perfect, as Yahweh Shai. He didn't sin as Yahweh Shai, because in other past lives he went off, as Solomon, Adam, right? But as Yahweh Shai, he didn't sin, but yet, he was humble. He humbled himself. He came in the form of a servant. He came in that lowly spirit, right? And that's the mindset we got to have in this truth. We got to serve one another in the lowliness of mind. We got to be like a servant to one another, not, like I said, not in dissimulation, not in a pretentious way, but sincerely, man. Because we come into some times where, it's about to get crazy out here, man. And we want to make sure, that we don't have that, where we don't have no schisms among the body. We don't have no kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Barriers between one another, in the spirit. We want to make sure, that brothers are, in harmony. There's love, true love among the body. Okay. Even though brothers got differences, brothers got different personalities, whatever the case may be, but we always got to remember this word is what brought us together, and this word is what's going to keep us together. This truth, our belief in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, man. Okay. All right, this is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 17. It says, honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear the Most High, honor the king. See that? It says, honor all men and love the brotherhood. And it tells you in Psalms 133 that that's a beautiful sight in the sight of the Lord is the unity of brothers. Okay. And like I said, man, that yesterday was a spiritual day. And after I left that brother Zakar's house, when I was driving back to the crib, when I was on the freeway, the exit I had to get off on. One of the exits I had to get off because I had to take a few freeways to get back to the house. And one of the exits, it was 144, and then another exit was 44, 44A. So it was just spiritual the whole time. And, A is the first alphabet in you know, is one, the first alphabet. So A is like 1. So the first exit I had to get off was 144, and the next exit was 44A, which really is the A is like like I said, the first alphabet. That's like 144. You know, except it was in the opposite direction. So it was just spiritual. That whole day when I was with that brother, and even when the moment when I left, you know, seeing those numbers on those exits, you know, it was just, man, it was just beautiful, man. You know, so I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna wrap it up. This is Hebrews chapter 13 verse 1. It says, "Let brotherly love continue." Okay, and like I said, me and that brother came in at the same time, you know, and I remember the first few times me and our brother first fellowship around the time when we first joined the camp, and me and that brother was, you know, talking about those times, and you know, the fact that, you know through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shai, we're still here, Lord willing, to the end. You know, we were just laughing, talking about those times, because, you know, we was going through a lot at that time when we first came in. You know, the brother was homeless. You know, that was a time where, you know, I didn't have no place to stay. You know, and you know, I was going from house to house. You know, sometimes I had to stay. I was staying with one brother. I had to go live with a couple of other brothers. You know, and we was going through similar predicaments around that time frame. You know, and around that time frame, we were fellowshipping a lot during that time frame. You know, because those were like our formative years in the faith. You know, and we were just, you know, sitting back talking about those things. You know, and you know, when I left and I saluted that brother, and I hugged that brother, I can feel that, you know, that brother was, because that brother was kind of sick for a little bit, but I felt that brother, I felt his strength. I felt, you know, he felt like he was revitalized, man, you know, by me just simply coming to see him and you know, fellowship with him, of course, you know, do the work. You know, I can tell that really, you know, boosted that brother's morale, boosted that brother's faith, you know, and that brother even called me today. That brother called me, you know, we chopped it up for a cool minute too, you know. But pretty much I'm just doing this video, you know, just for brothers out there, you know, just encourage brothers, you know, if you can, the spirit is on you, you know, it doesn't hurt to, you know, check in on brothers, man. Go visit brothers, you know, because, you know, words can help, you know, to it. You know, these words, these lessons, these videos we do are powerful, you know, but the presence of you know, having a brother in your presence, that helps as well, man. You know, that's really needed at times. You know, sometimes brothers need that physical presence of a brother, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So with that, I'm gonna wrap it up. Like I said, Lord willing, I pray this is edifying to you sincere brothers out there. Keep fighting, man. Stay strong. We almost out of here. So with that, I'm gonna give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Honors and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing this word in true sincerity. Shalom.